everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds. I am once again Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
Today on Geeks Not Nerds, we're going to talk about a topic that Eric wanted to talk about, something that he and I have been kind of mulling over and talking about a lot in our personal lives, and Eric thought it would be fun to chat about this on camera a little bit. I have no idea what direction this conversation is going to go. This is more of kind of a broad, open-ended topic and kind of a time capsule before it's answering a question, as we often do on Geeks Not Nerds. So for about 15 minutes or so, we're just going to chat a little bit about modern comics. Eric, what specifically do you want to talk about today?
I didn't have anything in particular. We've been talking about this a lot, and a little bit of disenchantment with modern comics.
Yeah.
Specifically modern superhero comics.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of maybe wanting to move away from that.
Yeah. I keep thinking about it, and I feel weird about it, and yeah. So I guess we'll just talk about that, and maybe start at that place. Like, what are our main kind of issues and annoyances that make us think, well, our money might be better spent on things that we've always meant to read from the past.
Yeah, like, I feel like there's such a sense of, like, and I've always had, whether it's actually been put on me or of just, my own personal, like Catholic guilt kind of thing, like you're supposed to be reading current, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to be keeping up and knowing what's going on, and
supporting the industry.
Yeah, and more and more I'm finding...
I've always been such an advocate for comic shops, I feel weird if I'm not shopping at one.
Yeah, and more I'm finding... like, I just don't care, especially at Marvel. Because Marvel's comics are just kind of dreadful right now, for the most part. And even things I might be interested in, like, I might kind of be interested in looking at Coates' Black Panther. But then I'm like, yeah, but why would I read that? Why wouldn't I go back and read the Christopher Priest stuff? Why wouldn't I go back and read the Don McGregor stuff? Why wouldn't I read the foundational stuff? Because... especially at Marvel, but all superhero comics do this. We've stopped creating and inventing, and we've just started recycling.
Yeah,
it's just like, and now we're doing another Shi'ar story, and now we're doing another like this story.
And Infinity again.
Yeah. Oh, there's an Infinity movie come out. We'll do another Infinity. We did an Infinity event 2 years ago. And I'm finding myself...
we're going to reinvent Krypton again.
Yeah, and I'm just finding myself less and less interested, and there's all of this stuff that I've been meaning to read, and I'm like... and we're collecting all of it. Both DC and Marvel are doing killer jobs collecting their old stuff.
Yeah.
I wish they would finally put out the 90s Iron Man stuff. That's the big one that Marvel hasn't collected, where I'm like, why won't you just put this out? It's the armor that he wore in the cartoon. Like, people will see that, and, like, it's what you think of when you think of 90s Iron Man. Like, why isn't that just in a trade? It's where War Machine comes from. Kaminsky. Kaminsky's Iron Man one is wonderful, and it should be in trade. But, like, and I keep buying old stuff. Like, the new stuff is the stuff I'm putting off now. Like, I'll probably read Slott's Iron Man, because, like, it's almost like an addiction, right? Like you're never not gonna buy Batman.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of, even when I'm not liking Iron Man, I'm like, well, I should still buy that. I didn't like Kieran Gillen's run. It bothers me that I don't have all of his run in trade. Like, I'm like, I should finally get the rest of that. But, like, I'm finding myself drawn to other places. Obviously, Image. Image has current Image has a lot of stuff where I'm like, yeah, Remender's doing 5 books, and what I've read of all of them is amazing, and I should just go read that stuff. And then, also going backwards with some of, the weird stuff I showed here, where I'm like, why shouldn't I read, weird French science fiction comics? And I finally got the first volume of Tomb of Dracula, and I can start reading Tomb of Dracula, and then I found out that all of that stuff is in trade. The Frankenstein's monster, and then I'm like, here's all this, because I'm kind of annoyed that there is no major Marvel horror book right now, and there hasn't been for a long time. Yeah. I'm like, where is the book with Dracula and Blade and Werewolf by Night? And I'm like, I can just go read the stuff I've never actually read that has all that. Why don't I just go do that? And I'm finding that more and more where my big thing is, these are the things I'm not getting from the current comic book industry. And I'm like, but why am I complaining? I have all this stuff I haven't read, and I can go get that there.
Yeah, and I guess the reason we complain is because of this weird, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like representation thing, where it's like it's a great thing that they have the rights to, and that's always been a part of that house, and you want to see the house look whole.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so you want to see those things being published now, and I don't know how much of it even is always about what you're reading, right? Like sometimes you just feel weird that Marvel doesn't have, you know, a great horror book, or that DC, you know, when they weren't publishing Aquaman, didn't have Aquaman, just because it's supposed to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, like, I'm starting to feel this weird thing of just like, yeah, but there's all of this, like, how can I get excited about this new stuff when there's all this old stuff I haven't read?
Yeah, sure.
But
you could have that even if the new stuff was great.
Yeah.
And so then the question is the problem that you don't feel well read enough? Because a lot of what we're talking about, I think, when you say, you know, well, I could go back and read some of these great, you know, like French comics I've never thought to read, and some of the you know weird or obscure things. How much of it is current isn't what you want it to be, or you can't, and we talk about this a lot, or you can't count on it sticking, or you know, running for more than 12 issues before we get a new creative team, or that you'll have a book that runs for 4 or 5 years that you're really invested in, and that it doesn't get a great ending, et cetera, but, you know, before it restarts, or that it gets an ending, but then the next person kind of just retcons everything, and so you're not going to want to keep reading that character. You know all these things. How much of it is that? And a lot of those are problems that we've complained about ever since we've ever been in comics. Maybe some of those things are worse now. How much of it is that, and how much of it is you've only got so many years in your life, and you keep meaning to read older stuff that you've just never gotten to? Or is the deal that and I think this is totally valid and legitimate, is part of it that the current comics industry isn't doing enough to make you want to read what they're putting out versus everything else that there is? Like do you just feel older stuff? Do you just feel that way more because they're not enticing you enough?
I mean, that's certainly part of it, especially at Marvel. Rebirth has good stuff, and they have books that I want to read. But especially at Marvel, it's just like, well, you're not writing for me. You're also not writing for an audience that's reading comics. That's a big problem at Marvel. Is like, who are these even for?
Yeah, I agree with that.
They're not for me. So why don't I just not buy that stuff?
Can I tell you what my big dilemma is? Because you and I think differently about this, and we buy differently, right? So, I mean, when I think differently, I don't mean that we have a disagreement. I mean that we read and collect differently. So, you're about building a library for repeat reading, and I would love to do more of that myself, but I'm also as much of a collector as I am a reader. I've always said that. The dilemma for me is that I continue buying a lot of current because of the things I've always collected, whether I want that stuff actually or not. And I think this hurts Carnage, Venom lately, with as much Venom stuff as we're putting out. I'm going to talk briefly later about Venomverse, which I don't have a lot to say about.
Exciting.
I'm having a hard time remembering what even happens in that. But just we've been, you know, oversaturated with Venom stuff the last couple of years. And
for seemingly no reason.
Yeah, but we digress. You know, Thanos, Infinity, Galactus, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I think stories get hurt by the fact that it is still thought of as a collector's medium. And I love it as a collector's medium. It's a thing I really enjoy doing. And so it's this weird catch-22, right? It's this weird contradiction where it's like, well, I buy a lot of what I buy because of what I collect, and so if I want to keep buying it, I can't complain that much that they keep selling it to me, but then the reason I'm having a hard time getting excited about a lot of new current stories is because they're just, Marvel and DC keep giving me the same things over and over again. But the like Death of Superman and Infinity, et cetera, but then those are the things that keep me coming back. So like my brain explodes.
Well, and the big thing that always comes up when we talk about this is so much of your comic buying is rooted in your childhood. And you always want to be buying a X book, but you have like a 200-issue run of Uncanny XMen,
yeah,
and you haven't read it.
Yep, no, that's right. So I can just stop, and I could, you know, pick up some of the more recent stuff later when
and almost anything you're going to read X-Men is just recycling things from Claremont in the first place.
Yeah, and stuff that I don't even necessarily know about, and that becomes a problem too, where you'll read a new book and you won't realize that what you're reading actually is regurgitation or just throwback, and sometimes it's actually legitimately building on things that came before. It's not always just recycling, but not creating a lot of new. But you won't realize it, and you'll think it's new, and then you have that problem we have a lot with remakes when we're just ignorant and we don't know enough, where it's like. Well, if you read the original, you wouldn't like this as much because it's a watered-down version, or it doesn't understand the original material, whatever it is. But the long and short of it is, I go back and forth on this constantly, and I cannot tell you ultimately what I even want to do right now. Because as soon as I start thinking about dropping a lot of books from my pull list, or dropping my pull list entirely, I see what's coming out next week, and I want things. And then I feel like maybe I don't wrestle with myself enough about why I want them. Where it's like, well, this is just a thing I've always collected, or ooh, shiny, or that's just a thing that is like they're speaking to me in my childhood. It's almost like I have an obligation to buy it because they made it for me. You know, and if I don't buy it, who will? You know, I have that thought subconsciously.
But then you have all this other stuff where why would I possibly be excited about Infinity Countdown when I have all of this Starland stuff that I can
I've never read?
Yeah. Why don't I just go to the source?
Yeah. And again, for me, like, I stack up a lot of stuff that I haven't gotten around to reading. And so you could say, well, Cap, like, you could just keep buying what you're buying and stack it up, and there's nothing wrong with not getting to it yet. But then I also think about all the other things I could be using that money to collect. And another big thing for me that you don't have, because you don't go to singles and first editions like I do, is the more we put out, we popularize characters in movies, the more older comics are worth more. Yep. And so
the second Silver Surfer shows up in MCU, that original Silver Surfer run is going to skyrocket.
When I look at how much money I'm spending on modern comics, and then I think about books on my bucket list that I've never bought, how long can I go before I finally get first edition Watchmen's, for instance, when they stop being as easy to get as they are now, et cetera, et cetera. And Silver Surfer's a big one, yeah,
because you can get the whole thing for like $100, right? That's what the regular price is.
That's what it was a few years ago. I don't know what it is. I haven't looked it up in a while.
But the second he shows up in MCU, you're not going to be able to get it for under $500.
That's exactly right. Yep. No, actually, I think the Silver Surfer ones have gone up a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Watchmen, I think, is still that way.
Well,
those were comparable price for a while.
They might get a bump from Doomsday Clock, and they'll probably get a bump from the TV show, the cartoon, and the other adaptation.
I mean, I got to pull the trigger on it. But then, like you say, I also still love comics and love the industry and want to support it, and it's not like there aren't, like you said earlier, great things and things that I'm really enjoying reading. But it's kind of just a prioritization problem, and I'm such an all-or-nothing guy. I have a really hard time just buying 6 books a month, I find that really difficult. And also, we strategize these things so that it is, with many books, very difficult to just read one book.
Yes. Well, and then the question is, are you actually supporting the industry, or at least creators, by buying Marvel and DC, when you could be buying their independent work that they're getting 100% of the profit of?
And then the issue there is, again, for me, and you don't have this problem, I envy you with this, is it's difficult for me to prioritize, this sounds awful, books I've never heard of.
Sure.
Because I'm as much of a collector as I am a reader. So I would just as soon, with a lot of books, like, borrow them from you or someone else that has them.
Just to read them.
Just to read them, because I don't have to own them.
Yeah.
But then, also, the bigger issue is, because, there are things that I buy just because I love them that I was smart enough or thought to get in the first place, like Paper Girls, just because I was reading Vaughn and liked Vaughn. I was reading Y, and he finally had a new book that I saw when it started. And because Saga, I didn't, I couldn't start with.
Yeah.
It was already too far in.
Yeah.
And I had the first couple issues of that because
Saga?
Because
that first issue's worth quite a bit.
No, I know it is. And I'm forever grateful to King for sending me that, because he really wanted me to review it. I still have never done that, just because
we should do the first arc or two. I've got the first 3.
I wanted to read more than 2 issues. Before I talked about it.
And Saga's wonderful.
No, we absolutely should do that. But anyway, so Paper Girls I started buying, and there were other things like that too. I bought some of Black Science. I'll eventually get the rest of those trades. I got the first trade at one point, and I wasn't buying those in singles, so I got it that way. But anyway, I digress. My point is, part of the reason that I end up not reading a lot of creator-owned stuff is that I just don't keep up enough and don't find out about it because I'm so immersed in superhero.
Mm.
And I've always been, I say this a lot, I've always been a mainstream guy. I've branched out, but not enough that I find things without people prompting me sometimes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I mean, I've always been more into the outer stuff, but over the past couple of years I find myself pulling away from not even superheroes. Like, I still want to go back and read old superhero stuff. Like, I discovered that I can... There's like a 30-issue gap, but like I can get almost all of the Avengers for the first 200 issues in trade through various means. And I could read like just the first 200 issues of the Avengers. I'm very interested in doing that. So it's not pulling away from superheroes, but I am finding myself pulling away more and more from just mainstream comics at the moment, where I'm like,
sure,
yeah, but I'm more interested in all this other stuff. And there is more out there than superheroes, and yeah.
Well, I'm still waiting for the day when DC and Marvel are both great at the same time.
It's never happened.
Yeah.
As long as I've been reading.
Has it not? Yeah, I guess not.
There was a very brief period about 2005.
I was going to say, well, like, early 2000s, they're not terrible, right? Like...
About 2005 is when we get simultaneously Identities and Infinity Crisis and Civil War.
Oh, okay.
And there's a lot of good going on at both companies at that point. But there's also bad stuff going on.
Yeah, sure.
That's where Kurt Busiek has his awful Aquaman run, is right after Infinite Crisis and stuff like that.
Right before that, in DC, you have Our Worlds at War, which is horrible, and yeah.
Yeah.
That whole cartoony period of Superman where he can't open his eyes, and...
Yep. That's the Jeff Loeb stuff. But yeah, so like I guess that's a period where like both companies are mostly doing enough good things. I could say they're both good at the same time.
So like we're already out of time for this topic. I guess pretty much our whole point with this was just to say we're a little bit in limbo about how we feel about reading modern at the moment. I should mention that a lot of what's on my pull list right now are not Marvel DC things, but they are licensed. So I buy a lot of IDW and a little bit of Boom, with Power Rangers. And may I say, I'm not remotely disgruntled about that stuff.
Yeah.
Transformers
has been great.
If I got out of everything currently that I'm reading superhero or just DC Marvel, I still would not have the heart to stop buying Ninja Turtles, which I collect now. I couldn't I have so much of it. Even if it got bad, I would still be buying that. But I don't feel weird about it. It's not like Spawn where it's like I'm buying this because I have all of it. Like Ninja Turtles has stayed really good, and I've been enjoying Power Rangers despite the issues I have with it.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other things here and there like that, and things that I buy for my kids. But so like I'm probably never going to get to a point where I'm not buying any current. But like I said, I'm so all or nothing. I have a really hard time just buying 6 or 8 books. So I don't know. I don't know that there's a solution just to like how we feel about it right now. I mean, I'm interested to hear from other folks and if people are really excited about comics right now. I notice that and like this is anecdotal, so like I don't know that I can really put any stock in this, but just in our circles, there don't seem to be as many people in our audience as excited about comics as they used to be. And I don't know if that says anything. It might just be that I haven't done enough, constant new comic reviews lately where people come to this channel for that as much as they used to. But it seems like a lot of our mainstays, people that have been with us a long time that do read comics aren't talking about comics as much as they used to, or at least that's the impression I get. And so I wonder if I wonder if other folks feel the way I do about it.
You know what the downside is on my side?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I don't have anything to talk to anybody about. Right? Like, I'm not reading current comics, or if I'm not reading current comics, and like I can't roll up and be like, so I read this thing called the Meta Barons. And no one is going to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You're enjoying it in a vacuum.
Yeah, and that's kind of a bummer.
But can I say, I have that with New a lot.
Yeah, that's true. There's not a lot of people reading New Superman.
Outside of the channel. Yeah, that's the thing.
The Ultimates.
That a lot of the current comics that I like to read end up being, and it's funny because I call myself mainstream guy, but very few of the books on my pull are the books that are selling in the 50 to 100,000 range.
That isn't the obvious like Batman.
Much more of them, yeah. But I'm just saying, like the percentage wise, I don't have that many Batmans. Really don't. You know, I mean, I do still tend to read the big events just because, as much as I sometimes loathe those, it helps you keep up with the big things that are going on. If you're reading that, you'll see pieces of everything, and so it's just a nice signpost.
So She-Hulk's blue now for some reason,
and I think that yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's a lot of why.
Well, 30 feet tall.
Jubilee's still a vampire. Good to know. But
and has a baby.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. But is that a holdover from that all-girl X-Men book, or is that a different thing?
No, that is a holdover. She became a vampire in that, and I think she got the baby in that too.
Well, yeah, because the first arc was they find a baby. Is that baby? Is it still a baby? Wouldn't it have grown a little bit by now? That was a while back. Comics are really weird about that. Yeah. You're telling me all of this? You're telling me that in between Secret Wars, this baby is not aged?
No, she becomes a vampire before that. I think she's a vampire when she gets the baby. I think. Because Victor Gischler's X-Men is it's way before that, because it's
okay.
It's
I
when...
thought maybe she became a vampire again, or because wasn't there a whole thing where like a bunch of X-Men became vampires?
Yeah, but she stuck for some reason.
Right.
Yeah, that was
okay.
That was a long time ago.
Wasn't that? Lord. Yeah, that was around Remender's X-Force.
No, it's before that.
But not way before that, though,
it's
right?
Because a good number of years before.
Well, I don't know if that's right
because
I thought the Vampire X-Men thing happened like right around when I started reading comics, and Remender's X-Force is like a year after that. We're talking 2009 to 2010.
No, that can't be right because
or did they just bring it back or something?
They must have brought it back because
there's a big cover that's like X-Men #1 and it's vampires.
Yeah, that happened way before X-Force because so that book starts.
But it couldn't have, because I bought it when it came out and I wasn't reading comics before that, man.
But that book,
it's not possible.
Yeah, but then you're just misremembering when Remender's X-Force comes out. It must be.
Maybe.
Because
you're thinking more time passed than really did.
Maybe.
I mean, we can try to look it up.
Because I want to say Remender's X-Force is around Schism, and Schism's post Avengers vs. X-Men, which is also, and the Avengers vs. X-Men is post Second Coming, which is the sequel to Messiah Complex, which is where all of this comes from.
Yeah.
Because what was up to that point X-Men becomes X-Men Legacy, which is the Xavier book, and then they relaunch X-Men. They're like, first new X-Men #1 in 20 years, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
But and that's the vampire stuff with Victor Gischler.
Yeah, the thing I'm thinking of was July 2010 to May 2011.
Okay.
And that's Curse of the Mutants. That's this cover.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
So that's 2010?
Yeah. Wow. That's what I'm saying. It had to be.
Well, and then when is X-Force?
Let me look it up.
And that should be easy because it's just Uncanny X-Force, and that's the only thing in that.
Oh, that's right. I couldn't remember if the title was different. Now that you say that, I knew that. It's been a while, folks. Uncanny X-Force. Give me a second. I'm sure this is really interesting viewing. Oh, no, you're right. That was a little bit later. No. It starts... Volume 1 starts December of 2010.
Of Uncanny X-Force?
Yes. That's what I'm saying.
That blows my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm completely wrong on that.
I have a signpost for when I started reading comics.
I always think X-Force is way later than that.
This was just a few months after I started. And also, that's when I was working at the comic shop. I also remember it from that.
Interesting. I thought Uncanny X-Force started with...
There's another thing you said I think you're wrong about. I don't think Schism is post-AVX.
Is Schism not post-AVX?
That's what you said, right? Didn't you say that?
No, you're right.
It's not
AVX. Schism is not because the Gillen book starts
late 2011,
and that ends with a AVX crossover.
No, I'm right about that.
Oh man, everything's weird.
Yeah, that's July 2011. That's right around. That's actually a few months before Uncanny X-Force. I'm sorry, after Uncanny X-Force. So Uncanny X-Force is like December 2010. That's like 6 months after that.
That's so weird. Okay, yeah.
I mean, I was in a comic shop at the time, so some of that might have better, but yeah.
No, I thought.
So I didn't even argue with you. I was just like, no, I know I'm right about this.
Absolutely.
Well, that was interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a part 2 to this at some point, because I don't know that we really got anywhere beyond just kind of...
We're just kind of telling the viewers where we are.
How we feel about it right now.
Yeah.
But really interested to hear from other folks and what you guys are reading and stuff. I also get paranoid because I feel like I don't talk enough about or subconscious or self-conscious anyway, that I don't talk enough about new stuff. I am buying a lot. I'm just having a hard time prioritizing it somewhat for other things I'm reading. I should also mention that for me, some of this is kind of a professional thing where it's just, I want to be abreast a little bit. But, you want to keep up so that you can talk about stuff, but you also want to be, enjoying what you're reading.
Well, and then the question, I guess the bottom line question of all of this is like history versus relevancy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is your time better spent reading Soule's Daredevil or Bendis's Daredevil?
Yeah.
Or Miller's Daredevil?
That's a great question.
You could go back and read this great stuff that you know is great, or you could read the new stuff that might also be great, and you're buying, and yeah.
Yeah. And again, I want to be well read.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of that feels like it's going to stick better than some of what's coming out now, but then you don't know. Until well down the road.
Yeah.
You have things like Uncanny XForce where, like, I would love to do a video on that.
Me too.
I don't know how many people actually care about that.
Me too. I love Uncanny XForce. It's great.
But that is not a thing
if you've not read it, you should go read it. It's the best Deadpool has been outside of Joe Kelly.
Oh, yeah. He's awesome. And his suit looks great in that.
Yeah. I love that we got it in the movie. We'll talk about it when we get there.
Yes, that's great. No, when you said that, I was like, oh, that is what they did. That's awesome. That's really cool. And then he should just be like, oh, I love what this looks like. I'll just make another one. Let's go to rants. Eric, anything that you would like to rant about today, sir?
Sure.
All right.
Mine's going to tie into this a little bit.
Neat. I didn't come up with one that ties into comics.
It's a two-pronged... Well, it doesn't tie into comics. Okay. It's a two-pronged rant. One is, there is too much good television.
Boy, howdy.
We need to stop about... Well, we're shaking. I thought we were slapping.
Sometimes it's difficult to tell what I'm doing. Yeah. No, that's fair.
There's too much good television, and it's impossible to keep up. Just impossible, unless I sacrifice everything else to watch all this good television. And then, so that's the first part. Too much good television. And all of these shows I have to watch, right? Like, I have to watch these. But then...
Not everything can be a cultural touchstone.
Everything apparently is a cultural touchstone, and I'm a Neanderthal for not watching these things.
You are grossly ill-informed.
Right. What's really funny is, because no one reads anymore, right? Like people act like you haven't watched some of these shows and you're like uncultured.
Yeah.
This is the medium that's supposed to be rotting your brain. Isn't that amusing?
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
But it's actually not rotting your brain.
Yeah. But isn't that amusing that like now it's the sophisticated and educated television. So the second prong of this is, while there's all these things I'm supposed to be watching right now, right?
Yeah.
The things that I was supposed to be watching right now 5 years ago, no one talks about. No one talks about Mad Men. I had other ones in my head before I started this rant. The Wire. The Wire is one that is supposed to be the greatest television show of all time. No one mentions it. People still talk about the X-Files. Yeah. People still talk about Smallville. Not saying Smallville's great, but
Lost has a reason that people don't talk
Lost
about it.
That's a weird, whole other thing. Yeah, Heroes completely disappeared. Again, there's a reason for that.
6 Feet Under.
Yeah. I meet very few people who know what what's the Brian Fuller show I really like. It's not Better Off Dead. It's Dead Like Me.
Yeah.
Dead Like Me. But because we have such a immediate constant gratification kind of a thing, things fall off really fast.
So we have art that is throwaway entertainment somehow.
Yeah. And it doesn't resonate. No one's making Don Draper jokes anymore. I liked when I watched Mad Men. I'd like to watch that. I'd like to watch The Wire. People say it's amazing.
I like what I saw in Mad Men too. Yeah, I think some of it is just like splintering the culture because there's so much stuff. We all know we can't watch all of it, but no one's willing to admit it.
Yeah, and so it's this weird thing where I'm expected to be watching all of these things, and it's hard to prioritize. And it's even more hard to prioritize because I don't know what's actually important, because here was all these other things that were insanely important. Breaking Bad, obviously, has stuck. That's one of the big ones. I'm interested to see how long Game of Thrones sticks around.
Same here.
I have a theory that in 5 years, everyone will have forgotten Game of Thrones exists.
I have a theory that a year after it's off the air, this happens with Walking Dead.
Yes. It's kind of happened to Walking Dead while it's on.
Yeah.
I haven't heard about Walking Dead in about 2 seasons.
Except that it seems like the comics still sell pretty well.
Well, and the comics are still good, and they're wrapping up. An ending's coming to the comics.
That's probably why. Well, and it will be. This is a whole other thing, but it'll be really interesting to see what happens with horror things in general and zombies specifically after that.
Yeah. But
because people keep talking like there's been a big zombie resurgence from Walking Dead. I don't think that's true. I think it's just Walking Dead.
No, Walking Dead kind of comes on the heels of the TV show.
That's like falling away.
The comic book kind of kicks off the zombie resurgence, and the TV show kind of comes on the heels of that.
Yeah.
And like the first couple of seasons is at the end of that trend, and it's kept going, but that trend has gone away. But yeah, too much TV to watch. It's all apparently really important, except that everyone's going to forget about it. So, like, it's hard to prioritize the older things, because I'm like, well, I could go watch The Wire, which is supposed to be one of the greatest TV shows ever made. Again, not going to have anybody to talk to about it, because I'm like, I finally started watching The Wire, and like, yeah, I watched that 10 years ago. What, great. Good job watching The Wire. And then I'm like, I'm just going to go back to the 70s and 80s now and watch things that I want to watch. Because that's the other thing, is there's old things I want to watch too.
And it's also going to be
really want to go through the X-Files.
Yeah, it's also going to be really interesting to see what things you're able to continue making references to in literature.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, we keep talking about how cool it is that Deadpool is able to get away with throwing out so many different kinds of references and get really obscure, and it's like a potpourri, and like you get maybe 60-70% of it, and different people will get different percentages of it. But that's because of what Deadpool is and how many different and how often the references come, how it's a joke every 20 seconds, at least in the first movie. Not everything can do that, and so it becomes really difficult to decide like how obscure you can go and what people are even going to get. And I really think that 10 years from now, there's going to be a lot of stuff from the eras you're talking about, 60s, 70s, even into the 80s, that and you know certain 90s things too. But like there's going to be certain things from last century that we will continue to be able to reference.
We will still reference the Brady Bunch and Gilligan's Island.
There will be things that made more money than some of those things that people will try to reference, and not nearly enough of the audience.
And probably are better.
Yeah, sure.
It's not hard to be better than the Brady Bunch or Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you some of the what's the sitcom? How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah. I don't think you can even reference that.
I don't think you could do Legendary, and most of the people would know what you're talking about.
I'll throw out Wait For It. People don't know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
It's only been off the air like 7 or 8 years,
but you can
right?
still make Seinfeld, Frasier, Friends jokes.
Yep.
And everyone knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to Addams Family. You can go to The Munsters. That was only on 3 seasons.
Yeah, I love The Munsters.
Yeah.
You go to Cheers. I wouldn't get it, but you could go to Cheers.
Yeah, sure.
I know they turned the lights off in the last episode. and Sam and Diane. These are the things
But yeah, some of that is because of a good problem to have, which is the streaming model has allowed for so many more networks and creators to show up and do good work and have enough money behind it for it to look good. And I think we'd be better off if we just would all recognize that watching TV now is a lot like looking at news in your Facebook feed. You know, it's just we're all having different experiences.
Well, and it's also like once it's all great, now it becomes more of a taste issue, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Like this is the biggest show. It's really important. Maybe it's not my thing. I'm sure it's great. Maybe it's not my thing. Maybe this is my thing, you know?
And it should be acceptable to say that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think people don't quite get that. We talked about this recently with this turned into a whole other GNN. We talked about this recently with superhero stuff. That has gotten so saturated, and there are so many like real genres that look like subgenres to superhero or comic book that people should not be expected to look at all of it. I can't, and I do, and this is my job. You know, I can't look at every superhero thing. There's not enough time of the day. I can't imagine what people with like real jobs are trying to do with all the superhero TV and movies and stuff, it should be acceptable. People should not look at you weird if you're a superhero fan and you've not watched everything.
What's
like,
really?
I'll get to Black Lightning. I saw the pilot, but just as an example, I've had folks that are like, did you finish the first season of Black Lightning? No, I didn't. I will probably try to get to that eventually.
One of the things that's really interesting that I discovered is how many people at my job leading up to Infinity Wars, how many people haven't seen all the Marvel movies, and also that they're impressed that I saw them all in theaters. I was like,
really?
Well, yeah, I've been there since the beginning. Like, what are you talking about? You're older than me. What do you mean? Oh, like, how did you see them all in theaters? I'm a comic book person. It's all we had.
These days, there's so many more things.
Yeah.
But that does seem... The thing is, it's also easy to think, well, everybody goes to all the Marvel movies. I can't tell you the sheer number of people that have asked me. I almost want to carry around, like, a chart. Because have you gotten this? People keep asking me, what movies can I get away with not seeing to go to Infinity War?
I have gotten that.
Everybody thinks
Thor,
that they have to go to Infinity War. That it's... that it's made so much money, it's been such, again, cultural touchstone, everyone's talking about it. People are coming out of the woodwork that have hardly seen any Marvel movies going, I guess I have to go see this movie. And I keep having to tell people what I think are the movies that they can, get away with. And my, this is neither here nor there, but my advice usually is bare minimum, anything with the word Avengers in it, Civil War, Guardians. That's about all you have to have.
Yeah. Well, when I go through it, like, it gets weird where I'm like, okay, we should see Iron Man because that's where it all starts, and then you should see Avengers, and then but like, cycle back 5 years, I would have told them to watch Thor and Captain America before they got to Avengers. I don't know how important that is after this has all been the public zeitgeist. So like, I don't know, Iron Man, Avengers...
You can, but like, as long as you've seen the Avengers movies, you get the gist of what Tony Stark's about and the ways in which he's changing and growing and the rate that's happening. It's easy for us to say, well, like, we get that it's a 10th anniversary thing and all the things that they're harkening back to with Iron Man and stuff. You will still enjoy that movie and be able to follow it if you've not seen any Iron Man film.
Yeah.
There are 6 movies you need to see, and that's
Winter Soldier's really important?
Well, no, maybe that's...
Winter Soldier's important?
That's in there. That would be probably the 6th one. But like, even Black Panther, you could get away with not seeing.
You don't have to see Black Panther just to understand it. You don't have to see Black Panther. You don't have to see Ant-Man. Well, you obviously don't have to see Ant-Man. You don't have to see Doctor Strange.
But then
I don't even think you need to see Spider-Man.
But then what? No. Spider-Man's toward the bottom of my list.
Or do you because this is built so much on the Peter Iron Man relationship?
No, I don't think you do though.
Okay.
You would appreciate that more. But I'm just
talking a little bit in Civil War.
Mostly just in can you follow what's going on and care enough about the characters involved? Doctor Strange, I don't think you have to see.
Nope. He's a wizard.
Yeah. That's it. But what'll get interesting is when you get to the next one. You will need to have seen Ant-Man, and probably Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like for this particular film, there are movies that you don't need, but a year from now, you're going to need to have gone back to some of them.
Yep.
And that list will get a lot longer, probably.
Yep.
I don't know how we got here.
Yeah.
Here's my rant real quick.
What is your rant? What are you angry about?
I'm not really angry about this. This is just a thing I wish we had more of.
What are you disgruntled about?
It might just be a me thing. I, as you know, really like trivia.
Yes.
And I wish there were more good trivia video games. It's just not a thing we have a lot of, and I wonder if there's just not enough of a market for it. So I think there are 2 reasons for this. Actually, let me start with, they used to be better, and they seem to have gotten either really generic or too adult to play with your kids.
Okay.
There's like nothing in the middle, right? So we bought the like family game night thing on PS4 that had Trivial Pursuit. The old Trivial Pursuit back on the PS2 is wonderful. Mm-hmm. It has a lot of cool modes. The questions are mostly really well written. There's enough of them. It has a mode where it lets players bet on whether or not they think the other player is gonna know it. So
that's fun.
You even when it's not your turn, you have something to do, and you can there's a mode where you can actually get wedges by doing that because you get points for getting questions right, but also for knowing that. And so you can actually end up getting a wedge that somebody loses, not even answering the questions about that category. But it's really super fun. And then, but I wanted to get a new one because that game, the only real problem I have with it is it has a lot of really topical questions from right around 07, 08, and it's got a lot of general knowledge stuff also, but too much of it is what was going on right then. And so Trivial Pursuit's always been like that. I want the more updated thing, right? Well, they've got one now that's on that Family Game Night thing that is really bare bones, doesn't have enough different modes, and it's really super obnoxiously cheesy. The game in 08, 09 was really classy looking, and the announcer guy wasn't annoying, and he just talked in like kind of a nice soft voice, and it wasn't game showy. And I like game shows, but I don't need Trivial Pursuit to be a game show. And the Trivial Pursuit they've got right now, it's not even Trivial Pursuit. There's no board. It's just they've got wedges, the images of wedges, but it's not Trivial Pursuit at all. And I miss the classiness of that game, and there's not a lot of alternatives. So people will mention like the Jackbox, you don't know Jack, and there's a couple of other things.
I've always heard good things about You Don't Know Jack.
There's a game there's a game out right now, I forget what it is, that you can download, and there's like, I think there's expansion packs and things, or maybe it's just one big thing, I'm not even sure, but where you can like, people can use their phones to answer questions and stuff. That's cool and all, but it's bar trivia. It's very, very bar trivia. And I just want something that I can play with my family that's not all about like sexual innuendo and stuff. And I get why people like that, and that can be fun and stuff, but I want something a little classier.
Well, and the problem with You Don't Know Jack is it's not randomized questions.
Yeah.
It's like all these questions. And You Don't Know Jack looks really fun, but once you've played through all the questions, that's it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But
I think the Jackbox, that thing is randomized questions.
Okay.
I think that's the point of that. I don't know if I'm right about that because I've never done it. But if anybody knows of other really good, more current trivia games that are video games, let me know. I think the other big reason one of the reasons that this is happening, as I alluded to, that we don't have as many good, classier looking trivia games, just good general knowledge things that you can play with your family, is because bar trivia has gotten so huge. That's part of it. So the adult trivia thing. The other thing is there's so much trivia on the internet now. I think people. Which I think has also maybe helped to kill game shows. I'm not sure. People aren't really into game shows like they used to be, and I miss game shows. That's part of this too.
Well, game shows kind of got hurt by reality TV, and then they never really recovered.
Yeah.
Even though reality TV's kind of died out, not completely, but it's dying.
But when I say trivia has kind of maybe helped to kill game shows, I think it's that everybody can look everything up on their phones, and I think the mystique is gone. I mean that's part of why that's happened. But anyway, I just don't think it's probably gonna come back the way I wish it would, because I don't think there's enough of a I don't think there's enough people interested in it.
It's not impressive to know anything anymore because everyone knows everything because they have a phone.
Yeah, and then we don't know anything, but that's a whole other subject. But yeah, there's not really a market for it. So I understand that, but I don't know. Makes me sad. It's a thing. There's a demand of at least one for it. I wish there was more of that. But anyway, well, this was a lengthier GNN, but thanks a lot for watching. Sure appreciate it. And Eric and I on the Geekvolution Omnibus are going to move on now to the Deadpool spoiler cast. So look forward to that. And Eric and I are going to talk spoilers for about 45 minutes or so. And we're going to talk. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of Deadpool 2 and of what should have been the untitled Deadpool sequel, and they ended up not running with that.
They didn't stick to their guns on that.
They did not stick to their guns on that. But anyway, so we'll see you here in just a little bit after this break, and join us next for the Deadpool 2 spoiler cast.